Hello, hello. Sorry about that. If I blasted your speakers, I was being a jerk. Hello, hello. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and that's what powers this show, the ohmTown Daily News Show. This is for September 25th, 2022. Episode, I think it's 268. I'm always losing track of it, but at any rate, I have already selected a bunch of articles. Some of them are, well, it runs the full gamut of what is ohmTown. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, always from the perspective of the crossroads of business, technology, and society. So there's always a little bit of something in here. I am going to come out of the gate with a political one, but I'm just going to touch it for a moment and run off because really there isn't much more to say, at least from Mayor Watt's perspective. And let's just get into it. Because there's a sociopathic perspective, which you'll hear often, I guess, if you stick around. Yesterday, I hit a goal up there, and I've changed it a little bit. Something really weird happened with a transfer over to YouTube. All hell broke loose. Yesterday, I actually left my stream on for 3 more hours than intended. I don't know. Maybe I was drinking too much, but I wasn't drinking at all. Maybe I didn't have enough caffeine. I don't know what it was, but my brain fell out of my head and I left my stream on. So it was a chair stream for 3 hours. At any rate, it's remedied. I uploaded it over to YouTube and then found out that when I, again, for whatever reason, I've changed nothing in my render engine, but when I published it, it was a tiny screen. So it was like that big on the big screen. So I redid it and pushed it over again. Now I'm waiting for it to finish. So you'll be able to check out yesterday's stream without the chair elements of it. Although the VOD here on Twitch is always going to have it in perpetuity. Well, at least for the next 90 days or some 60 days. I don't know how long Twitch keeps it. At any rate, I am moving on from this traumatic event, and we're going to talk about the news real quick. So right out of the gate, GOP Senator Ted Cruz doubles down on his anti-gun control stance. Violence, quote, is actually the only thing that does stop violence, he said to a crowd at an event. He's against gun control on a Saturday at a Texas Tribune festival. Addressing a crowd, Cruz suggested violence is the only thing that stops violence, pretty much negating anything short of complete tyrannical fascist rule. It has never, never been the thing that stops violence. We are arming our citizens and arming our police with military-grade equipment because violence begets violence. And it keeps on getting louder and louder. It doesn't get, oh, look, somebody's violent, so let's just step it down a little bit. You know who does do that? Who does step it down a little bit? Law-abiding citizens go, holy crap, there's a ton of violence going on. I'm going to go inside. But the people that are out there shooting stuff up, I almost said something else, are going to go out there and shoot stuff up with bigger and bigger weapons because they are not going to let somebody stop them. So violence actually begets violence until you have complete fascist control, overwhelming oppressive control. Look at Iran, look at Turkey, look at China, look at all kinds of places where it amounts to fascist totalitarian control over the population until they capitulate. in a particular mindset. You have to follow a very specific set of rules that oppress you in a certain way. And then you have buy-in. And that is what these wingnuts want to bring to America. This is not about gun control anymore. This is about something bigger, folks. So pay attention to what's going on. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Ted Cruz is a putz. So the next article is really what America should be focusing on, which is everybody seeking the American dream and having equity and opportunity, inclusion, options, not all of the other wingnut crap that people want to oppress others with. This is what the American dream is. Now, I don't know all of the context of it, but it says here a 44-year-old mom of three made $735,000 last year from reselling clothing from her closet. Now, it grew into this. It didn't start out overnight like this, but it did start selling overnight. So this is what everybody should have the opportunity to pursue. And all the rest of this stuff is just noise in the channel. And I'm not even talking about, late stage capitalism and all of that kind of stuff. We certainly are in late stage capitalism, except for the entrepreneurial spirit. We have the ability to launch smaller businesses and compete, but through mergers and acquisitions, some of which might be discussed here. I point because I have a string of tabs open that we're going to march down here in ohmTown, and we're going to talk about each one again from that crossroads of business, technology, and society. But I think it's pronounced Mejia, Mona Mejia, 44, a stay-at-home mom, when she began reselling on Poshmark in 2015. And last year, she earned selling on social media, live streams, and through brand partnerships, which is something that I actually want to do, but with very specific things, jewelry and findings and beads and stuff like that. It's an auction type of site or process that I want to bring to Twitch. Anyway, through brand partnerships and live streams, she's confident others can have the similar success, but it doesn't happen overnight, naturally. So before 2015, she was taking care of her three children. Then her husband got sick and she started selling, leaning into it hardcore. So let's go over to the link. There's a video over here about paper making, which I think is really fascinating, but that's not what we're talking about. So I ended up looking at this beforehand. I don't normally do that, but I did in this case because I seek context, and I didn't want to do that context seeking while I was streaming live. But suffice it to say, Business Insider verified the documents. Jacob Zinkula is the author of this article. This here is Mona Mejia. I think that's how she pronounces her last name. And she earned $735,000 last year, but started in 2015. You can do it too. Well, she started selling various things. So clothing, home goods, toys on social media. And then her husband got sick and she had to lean into it. And it basically bloomed. And during the pandemic, people are purchasing stuff as seamlessly, frictionless as possible. And if they see something and they see a human being selling it, it's something that I've been actually really interested in as a business model, instead of basically just a picture and a hopeful, hey, I'm going to purchase that, and then they buy it, and then you end up with a return or something like that. Well, demonstrators can actually show the product. It's going to be more expensive, but it's a human being that's showing stuff and able to demonstrate the fabric, describe the fabric in greater detail, and be reactive to the interaction with another human being. I think that Twitch and YouTube and Insta and other places can all facilitate this with their own audience, because not everybody is everywhere all the time. Good name for a movie, but anyway, so it says it wasn't until roughly a year ago, however, when they started selling live on selling on live streams through Insta and TikTok and Facebook. And that's when the business really took off. And they only made $23,000 through Poshmark last year, but social media is where the bulk of our income comes from now. So you can do it too. You know, I'm a big promoter of small businesses and entrepreneurship. And by promoter, I mean I encourage people to seek that. I refer to it as hanging a shingle. That's usually in the legal profession, though. Really, I think people should take it on and compete and be a better provider of service than these mega corporations. You may not have the reach, but you start small and you grow. And I'm doing that here on Twitch. I'm starting small and I hope to grow. And it's really all about interacting with others about the news and going from there. So that's what I'm interested in. So if you want to say something here in chat, come on over. If you're catching this at a later date via the podcast or via YouTube or watching the VOD here on Twitch, come on back and hang out for an hour. It's just an hour now. Right now, it's just an hour. Later on, it might be 2, 3. It really depends on how much engagement I have here on the stream. And I know that the longer I stream, the longer people will be able to find me. But it's a balance. And I don't really game that much because I'm trying to find a game that I really want to play for long terms. And I don't want to be really, my attention span isn't that great for a variety streamer. I can't hop from one thing to another, really. I really want to stick to this one thing as a game on Twitch. But my attention span really is I want to consume just a bunch of news and interact with people about that news, not so much a particular game or games. So that's why I'm here. It's going to be a nice little balance, folks. So stick around. So that's what this person did. They launched a business. They started small. They grew it into what it is. And according to Business Insider, they verified the documents that they made $735,000 last year. Now, I'm not sure if that's the total amount for the entire period from 2015 to now. But they said last year. And if that's the context of just last year, that is a ton of money. So let's move on to the next article. Introducing the stunning Habring Squared Chrono Felix Perpetual Salmon. It's not a fish, it's a watch. So this is the watch. This is over by, it's over at monochrome-watches.com, but they only go by monochrome. Bryce Gouliard is the writer of this article and about this watch, and they have beautiful, just stunning photography on this site. And I'm kind of, I stumble between, am I interested in the watch or am I interested in the photography? But it's a happy medium because I'm really interested in the engineering in the watch. This is the Chrono Felix Perpetual with a black face, and this is with a copper face. And let's see what else is in here. Sorry about that little snap. So this is the case back. Let me close that. This is the movement as it's referred to, but this is the back of the case. I believe that it's skeletonized. You can actually see it, but they don't show it within. They show the movement outside of the case. So, but I love this kind of stuff because all of these elements within a watch are identical in pretty much every single watch until you find one that's really revolutionary, that doesn't follow this mechanic and has completely unique engineering. But then you're talking about like a $200,000 watch. But this kind of a watch is limited edition, very high quality, beautiful engineering. But it's 23,500 euro. So you got to pick your battle, folks. Do you want an NVIDIA 4080 or 4090? Or do you want a beautiful watch for 23,500 euro? Oh, hey, how you doing, Lunchbox? Getting Running Man's vibes from this? I don't know. You want to get this watch? It's only 23,000. If you want to buy two and send one to me, that's fine. I'd rather have the one in black though. That's more my style and goes with more of my stuff. Does he really? I'll have to go and check him out. Let me see something real quick. Let's do this. I will go and see once a stream. Now I'm really intrigued. I'll have to go and check. Oh no, hold on one second. You know, I'm so easily distracted. you're, you're sending me down another path here. Well, I will follow, because anybody that mentions something like a watch, who knows what else I've not watched them before, but they've got 23 followers. So I'm going to go over and watch them as soon as they come online. I've got them alerted. So thank you very much for the lead. Anybody that mentions a watch might have other things in mind. The engineering there, I don't know what else they talk about. So we'll go check them out. Thanks for the lead. The next article is over in the Word and Tech channel, and it's Adobe can't Photoshop out the fact that it's $20 billion. That's B. $20 billion purchase of Figma is a land grab. And John Nottam is the author of this article over at The Guardian. So let's just click the link and go over there, since I kind of babbled for a little bit. I'll keep us all on target. So this is The Observer. It's about Adobe. It's at theguardian.com. So if you want to read the full article, go for it. But Figma basically is a graphics editing program. A lot of people have been hyping it up. It's very popular. It's considered a small company, but apparently they had some really special tech involved that attracted Adobe to them, kind of like a moth to a flame. And Figma was going to just go ballistic in terms of adoption, I think. I kept hearing more and more about Figma. And I think it's, if I remember hearing, the rumor was that they had technology that allowed you to remove things from the graphic, whatever, the photo or whatever image that you were working with. And it was something that Adobe really was interested in. So they went out and purchased it. And if you've ever visited me in the last 9 months, or if you've ever run into me out in the real world and we end up talking about business, I really hate mergers and acquisitions. Mergers and acquisitions basically mean that competition is being excised from any discussion. U.S. regulators like Jumbo Shrimp or military intelligence. Yeah. The problem here with the lack of competition is that what's going to end up happening is all of those consumers that found value in Figma are now going to be rolled into Adobe. And Adobe doesn't sell their product outright anymore. It's all software as a service. And in doing that, because they eliminate competition, what do you think ends up happening? Well, the benefit that Figma was providing to these users are now going to have to pay more, get less. They lack customer service of any kind unless you are a corporate adopter of their technology. You are subscribing at the institutional level for a college, or you are paying an arm and a leg for licensing within your enterprise, your business. Adobe really just doesn't care. Like they just killed $20 billion worth of market just by purchasing Figma. Some of those employees are going to be gone, but all of it's going to get rolled into, over time, all of that tech is going to get rolled into Adobe. So it says we'll come to the price later, but at first sight, the answer to the second question would seem to be no. The two companies are not direct competitors. Adobe dominates the market in software for creating, publishing, digital and printed material. They go way beyond that. Adobe goes way beyond that. Graphics, photography, illustration, animation, multimedia, etc. If you've ever used Photoshop, Illustrator, Acrobat, or opened a PDF, then you've used an Adobe product. Figma, in contrast, is a smallish company that produces nifty web-based tools to enable teams working on user interface and user experience design projects to collaborate online. And it says none of these tools is a serious competitor for the heavy-duty ones that Adobe markets, and indeed Figma designers have always been ecumenical about what people choose to use in their design work. So they're saying that it doesn't have anything to do with their graphics, but they've chopped an entire market away from Figma. So where are those users going to go now? Because Adobe really is just a juggernaut. And now that competition is gone, where's the value add? Let me close that. So let's move on. We'll come back to that, I'm sure, at another time when more information is released. The next article is over here in Tabletop Nights. I mentioned that yesterday in the stream. It's basically an RPG related tabletop gaming channel, but this is Mandragora, which is a side-scrolling RPG. The graphics for Mandragora, if you've never seen it, are spectacular for a side-scroller, because you'd think that it's going to be, like 8-bit graphics or something like that, but it is far and away not. So in the rare time where I'm actually going to stream a video, today is going to be it. So developer Primal Game Studio has been doing a Kickstarter, and it's for their side-scrolling action RPG Mandragora. The game is intended to be a challenging but rewarding title, drawing inspiration from titles like Castlevania. Castlevania is actually really, really old, but has returned periodically. Dark Souls, The Witcher, Wild Hunt. It's being developed with support from Marvelous Europe for PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox X and S, and Nintendo Switch, and is currently planned for release in 2023. So I'm just going to play this video. Maybe y'all can see it, but check this out. Oh, let me pause something. Hey, I'm going to rewind this. That way you can hear it. Yeah, these graphics are amazing.
Mandragora began as a dream, one that was simple but ambitious, to take the classic
So I won't go through the whole thing, but go over to the Kickstarter. You can follow the link in the chat here. Let me throw that back into chat. I've kind of neglected to throw my links in today. So let me back up and throw them all in there. So that's for Mandragora. This one is for the Adobe Photoshop purchase of Figma. This one here is the watch. And all of those will lead you to the source. That's for the entrepreneur. And this one is the very first article, which is Wingnut. So definitely go over to RPG, or it's RP Gamer. Alex Fuller is the author, and you'll be able to follow that link, that very first link, and it'll lead you to the Kickstarter. And then sign up for it. I think I'll be doing that myself. So this next article, Project Eve is now Stellar Blade. A trailer drops at State of Play. Shift Up and Sony Interactive Entertainment announced during the September 2022, State of Play that Stellar Blade is the new name of the upcoming sci-fi action RPG known previously as Project Eve, and the title promises quite a few futuristic and frantic action elements and a rather curiosity-piquing story. So there's normally I would normally play videos, but a couple of times now I've gotten a notice over on YouTube, of all places, that there's some copyright claim. It's not a takedown or anything like that. So I am kind of loath to push that play button. Other people seem to get away with it, but maybe they do some more paperwork to make it possible. I just walk away. So in this case, RPGfan.com is the source. Audrey Bowling is the author of this article, and there isn't really much more to this article. So definitely go over and you can follow the link, this link right here. I'll throw that into chat, and you can watch that video. And it's the official story trailer. So if you're curious about what that story might be, you can go over there and check it out. It's over on YouTube as well. So don't let anything slow you down from going straight over to YouTube and watching it instead of following the links if you so choose. The next article is Team Ninja reveals Rise of the Ronin, an action RPG set in Edo, Japan. During the latest State of Play, Team Ninja announced Rise of the Ronin, an action RPG set in Bakumatsu, which I thought Baku. I don't know. I won't get sidelined by this, but Bakumatsu, the very end of the Edo period Japan. The title will be a PlayStation 5 console exclusive and will release sometime in 2024. So this is kind of like movies where they're announcing games 2 years in advance. Although, I mean, naturally, it's the end of 2022, but for crying out loud, it's launching in 2024. So you are Ronin, a warrior free from all masters and bonds, and as your destiny intertwines with story characters, take on an immersive, combat-focused action experience. And this is what it looks like. Over at RPG Fan, again, Tom Cox is the author of this. And if this is the actual in-game play, and this kind of 3D graphics are destructible, that's kind of my thing. I really enjoy a world that is destructible, and if I want to go and tear through a mountain, it might take forever. But I would love to be able to. It's something that I've wanted in terms of a Warhammer 40,000 computer-based tabletop gaming experience, something that I pitched to EA 30 years ago. And they said then that it could never be done, and today they say that it looks like it could be done. Who knows if it'll ever get done? I won't ever be able to bring it to the computer, but hopefully one day that's what we'll end up with, which was my original script was a more destructible, not really massive multiplayer, but a multiplayer experience. And then one of the other things that I really love is this Japanese style martial arts game with huge jumps and just supernatural type of martial arts experiences. I think it would be really great. This here, though, may or may not be like that, because it says the first details of Rise of the Ronin is a combat-focused open-world action RPG that takes place in Japan at the time of great change. It is the very end of a 300-year-long Edo period, commonly known as Bakumatsu. Set in the late 19th century, Japan is facing the darkest times of it as it struggles with its oppressive rulers and deadly diseases, while Western influence permeates as civil war continues to rage between Tokugawa shogunate and the anti-shogunate factions. They're trying to do away with the equivalent of clans. Here, in this time of mayhem, you embody a Ronin character, a warrior bound to no master and free to make choices of their own. Yeah, and everybody's after you. So you're always a target, and everyone else is a potential threat. So seems like it might be a fun game to watch. And it looks like there's guns involved as well. So this is not bound by a particular time frame where guns don't exist. So this will be an interesting game to watch. So keep your eyes out for it when people are streaming it over on Twitch. Let's move on to the next article. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them in chat. I'm happy to discuss anything that might be on your mind. I fixed my overlays. Yesterday, I discovered that things like follows and my URLs weren't showing up, and I thought it was a glitch, but it was actually an overlay issue. So resolved that. Ohio GOP candidate maintains he served in the military, and I thought this one was really interesting because there's some conflict, and it isn't really this person making the claim that they're in the military, and if they are or are not. That's not what I wanted to draw attention to. It was something else, and I'll describe it because I heard about this in a different way and happened to find it in the aggregator as I was going through the last 24 hours of news. That's how this works. I haven't read this article, but I have heard about it in a different way. So it says the Air Force told ABC News that there is no way for them to verify whether or not J.R. Majewski served in Afghanistan during his deployment in Qatar. So this is the Air Force telling people, we don't know. And that's what they're saying. They're not saying, hey, we can't disclose any combat-oriented deployments. So this is military records reviewed by ABC News show J.R. Majewski was based in Qatar. This is an article by Paulina Tam and a video by Jesse DiMartino. We won't play the video. In fact, I'll just stop it right there. And this is over at ABC News. And let's see if I can find it, because I know that they're going to bring it up, because this is something that I had read somewhere else and then found it in my aggregator. The Air Force released a statement. There we go. The Air Force released a statement to ABC News that while there is no way for them to verify whether or not Majewski served in Afghanistan during his deployment in Qatar, and although there are service medals associated with those locations that might narrow down records of his service, the list of awards and decorations in our personnel records may be incomplete or not up to date because some require action on the member's part to submit or validate. So they're riding this line of saying, we don't know, we can't confirm, there isn't a record of him accepting any decorations or awards. And lo and behold, he said on Twitter that he just didn't do the paperwork because he was in and out of there. But he did post that he spent time in Qatar and flew sorties into Afghanistan. So it's really interesting that people are questioning if this guy actually served. And maybe it's because he's a Republican. I just don't know. But it's interesting. And I think that in the era where transparency and honesty and gaslighting and manipulation are pretty much standard fare nowadays, I think that really behooves somebody to make it abundantly clear that they served. And he posted some documents that show that he served. So what are people really bent out of shape about? Did he or didn't he serve? If there are people that'll stand up and say, yeah, beyond the documents, if the documents don't come across as sound, maybe somebody else will pop up and say, yeah, he did. But I'm not keeping a long eye on this. I just thought it was interesting that the Air Force wouldn't even verify it. And he's running for office. So he's saying that he served, but the Air Force is saying we cannot say yes or no. It's just sad. So hopefully they just disclose it and say, yeah, he should waive the right to protect that element if they are willing to open it up for public discourse. They probably won't, though, because things are still mission critical and still active. Security still needs to be extended well beyond actions in the theater. At any rate, let's move on to the next article. And that article is in the Daily News Show. It just happens to be this show. And San Diego County is to pay $1.35 million over a 2018 in-custody death. Officials say San Diego County and other defendants have agreed to pay $1.35 million to settle a lawsuit filed by the mother of a Mexican citizen who died after sheriff deputies arrested him in 2018. So this here, it's from the Associated Press. It's aggregated from abcnews.go.com. And yeah, it's quite interesting because this is $1.35 million that is going to be a composite of taxpayer money for the activities that were done in custody in San Diego. So really, what is the issue here? Well, the court filing claimed that the deputies used a stun gun and their body weight and a wraparound restraint device to subdue the suspect, who was suspected of trespassing at a gas station in Fallbrook. So he lost consciousness during the arrest and was taken to a hospital, and then he died the next day. So this person, the last thing they knew was violence. And the Mexican consul general in San Diego said that Friday that Napoles Rosales' mother and the consulate felt satisfied with the settlement and pleased that the lawsuit brought the circumstances of his death to the public's attention. And this goes back to the issue with, wingnuts. Violence begets violence. And the only time violence doesn't beget violence is when it is so overwhelmingly harmful to life that it expunges it, and then you get compliance. And it's the most sociopathic behavior you can possibly imagine in a society that values life. And American existence really does value life. The Americans value having free time and enjoying sitting on their porch or their backyard deck. They like going on trips and enjoying life and not being in perpetual fear of something happening, yet not everybody can experience that freedom simply because of what they look like. And in this particular case, somebody suspected of trespassing at a gas station. What is the embodiment of that, right? So they go into greater detail about the autopsy and whatever else. It says the manner of death was undetermined. A toxicology screen found methamphetamines and amphetamines in his blood when he died. So what was really going on? If somebody's just trespassing, how did it end up like this? We'll never know the minutia of it unless somebody was sitting in the courtroom and monitoring everything that went down. So let's keep on rolling through the news. Take a look inside the most expensive home in the country, a penthouse in New York City's Central Park Tower that just listed for $250 million. Yes, $250 million penthouse. Let's just click the link and go there. I love Business Insider because it has picture after picture. Sarah Jackson is the author of this. Apparently, this is the view of this thing. Yikes. At 1,416 feet above the city, it's the world's tallest residence, located within the luxury skyscraper Central Park Tower on Billionaire's Row. Well, that sets the tune. Take a look inside the apartment, which boasts 17,545 square feet of interior living space. What? I thought for $250 million, you're getting a parking spot. Yeah. Oh, I heard, though, that the average apartment size now in New York is the size of a parking spot. I read that somewhere. Don't hold me to that. It may not be actually true, but that's what I had read somewhere. Didn't stick in my head, and I should really. I don't know if this video is going to play, but I'll pause it if it does, because I don't want to get in trouble. Anyway, the new residence has taken the title of the most expensive home in the U.S. It's in Billionaire's Row. We won't. Let's just get into the inside of this thing. So it has 131 floors. One of them has you, if you have $250 million to put down on this thing. I wonder what the mortgage would be on $250 million. What do you think the monthly? I mean, it takes 30 years, so you're looking at close to, what, $10 million a year, if you include all of the stuff, interest and whatnot. So $10 million a year, it's close to $1 million a month. I could swing that. I have 51 followers. The penthouse there listed for whopping $250 million last week, so it probably went up in price now. And it actually occupies several floors, floors 129 to 131. And if that's what it looks like, man, it doesn't even have any furnishings, for crying out loud. Come on now. Wow, it's actually pretty. It's pretty. That's a beautiful staircase there. Nice flowing, only obstructs the view where it has to. Unless you turn all of that into glass, it's going to obstruct the view no matter what. Let's see here. I want to try and find something really interesting. If we head down to those 130 floors, you'll reach the lobby, and that's what the 2,000 crystal piece chandelier has, sitting above that really long couch. That who knows what's going to happen there. It'll all come raining down in an earthquake or something. Not to be negative or cynical or anything, but let's see if we can get a little bit more inside. There's a movie theater. Looks like it's got about 25 seats. Not bad. Is that their outdoor pool? Yikes. Everybody gets to watch you swimming around in your pool. Oh, a private outdoor park as well. Wow. That is amazing. Oop, it snapped to the top. Sorry about that. Recreational spaces, indoor basketball court. Come on now. Wow, the gym is a Gold's Gym, for crying out loud. It's huge. An indoor pool. That's a lap pool. Another entertainment space, bar. Wow. There's a lot more, so head on over to Business Insider and check it all out. Well, let's just move on to the next article. This one really irritated me. Girls Who Code founder speaks out after Pennsylvania school district bans her books. And they say, the Girls Who Code founder says, this is about controlling women, and it starts with controlling our girls. Girls Who Code founder Reshma Sujani, I think it's pronounced, is speaking out after her company's book series was banned from a Pennsylvania school district, and the books were added to a Penn America's Index of School Book Bans, a list of restricted literature around the country. This is about controlling women, and it starts with controlling our girls and what info they have access to, so Johnny told Insider. And I tend to agree. I don't think that any book should be banned. Mainly because the people of the non-banned books, the ones who are steering all of this, wouldn't want their books banned, and their books are not banned. So why should people have the ability to ban books? Frankly, I would rather have somebody read a book, even if it has questionable content in it, and then come to me and say, what's this all about? Well, it's a book that is published by somebody who has these particular belief systems or thought processes or whatever. And if you are thinking like this or that, and maybe it's making you think about something else that you can do, and this inflames so many people when I say it, one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist, depending on which side of the fence you are in that equation. But this is a book about programming. This is about skill building. This is about knowledge. This isn't about anything other than empowering young girls to figure out if they are interested in coding, and simply learning that skill makes them more independent and more capable. It teaches logic and critical thinking. It teaches them due diligence and self-starting. They can embody anything that their mind creates from that point on. When they start learning how to program, they can build anything. And if I could do it all over again, I would probably focus on programming, but that's not where I ended up. But I can certainly endorse it from A to Z. I will be up all day making sure that people have access to something like Girls Who Code, because that actually is a marginalized population. There aren't a lot of girls who code, not in any strata of either academia or in the professional sector. And we need more. We need more people understanding how to code. So this article is over at businessinsider.com, and Bethany Byron is the author of the article, and ended up talking with Reshma Sujani about her book being banned. And it's a book series that teaches girls how to program. It makes it approachable. It makes it something that they can identify with, that they can connect with. And it's amazing that any book would be banned. Any book. And if they want parental rights in schools, which is always the case with this, then let that book be read, and the kid can come home and go, hey, I read a book about this. What's your take on it? But if you want siloing, if you want protectionism and xenophobia, then you start banning books. But this is how we devolve the conversation into, who else bans books? And it goes from banning books to burning books. And who ended up banning and burning books? You just let your imagination run wild with that. It isn't freedom-loving people that ban and burn books. It just isn't. I challenge you to show me a culture that banned and burned books, yet is embracing of openness, honesty, transparency, equity, inclusion. No, that's not how it works. Again, that is sociopathic behavior. Anyway, let's go on to the next article. You know what I didn't do? I didn't post that. I didn't post a lot of my articles. My goodness. I didn't post that one either. I need to figure out a better way. Hey, Lunchbox, you're still lurking? Thanks for sticking around. Yeah, of course they don't want those things. Lunchbox says they don't want those things. Of course not. They they want people that are incapable of taking care of themselves, so that they have to lean on them to be taken care of. And it's It's so destructive to society, and you end up with a few people controlling the masses based around their particular ideology instead of a culmination of broad conversation, finding openness and equity, inclusion, being sympathetic to various plights, compassionate and helpful, and give opportunities. There's so much more to being in a society than being oppressive and making people think like you. Although, I've had people say to me, well, you're trying to make me think like you. Well, in a way I am, but what I'm trying to get you to do is be arms wide open, not hitting somebody with a hammer because they don't believe what you believe. We are a plurality of people, and we need to embrace it. Now, there are some destructive processes at play at times in that openness, but you have to say to society, do you agree with that? Not pound them into the ground until they capitulate and say, fine, fine, fine. Stop hitting me with the ruler. I agree. And then it's just going along to get along. Correct. Yeah. And sometimes there's no convincing, but it's because of intellectual dishonesty. Because if you were to say to anybody, hey, let's go back to this. Hey, you want to burn this book or ban this book, which is the equivalent of burning a book, because you have to go to some black market to acquire it if there's no school that ever allows it in because everybody's following this book ban process. So you end up finding it somewhere. And, one step after another, it ends up getting worse and it becomes a slippery slope. But if I'm sitting there telling you, hey, you're banning this book, so now I'm going to ban a book that you love and that you trust and you think is valuable, so I'm going to ban that book. And then all these schools start banning that book. How pissed off is that person going to be? They're going to raise all kinds of hell and stand up before the board and before whatever organizational body they are part of. And they're going to come before the board of the school and go, you're banning my book, but it's a good book and blah, blah, blah. And none of those people, because they are influenced by the loudest forces, not logic, they're going to go, oh, okay, we'll let you, just to shut you up, we're going to let your book back in. But then this person doesn't have that same voice because they're not directly part of that community. But we are all part of a greater community well beyond, the 20 miles of whatever city or town or little, plot of 15 houses you exist in. Yeah. Yeah. There was a guy who went before the school board. For those of you who are listening to this as a podcast, Lunchbox popped up the message that said, did you see the In God We Trust posters written in Arabic? Yes. And yes, I did. And what this guy did was come before the board. He pops up with a whole bunch of signs that say, well, this says In God We Trust, and this says In God We Trust, but it's in different languages. And I think one was in Hindi and one was in Arabic. And I'm sitting there going, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant to drive home the point because there's a plurality. And people fail to realize that the phrase "In God We Trust" was formed during the Second World War so that there was something quote unquote bigger for the population to believe in so that they would join the military and fight for quote unquote freedom in the name of God. Except that so many other people have a different perspective of what that God is and what God is. So which God are we actually talking about, right? There's different organizations, 10,000 sects of Christianity, and there's just people all over the place, right? Yeah. And as Lunchbox said, and it would help catch the godless commies. Yep. And I think it's really fascinating that people are quote unquote anti-Antifa, which is anti-fascist, which is exactly what everybody's trying to stop. That's what the military is. It is anti-fascist. It's supposed to stop. It's supposed to stop all of that, but that's not exactly what's going on. And it's one of the reasons why I kind of hem and haw about politics in here. The one of the things that I am really I can't find a solution for, and I ask people about it, is so there's a lot of convergence of wealth and authority and power. And so I have a particular phrase, but I'll have to talk about it in greater detail at another time. But the idea here is that the House of Representatives keeps on getting diluted, and not diluted, diluted in its power and influence and capabilities. It is just one wing of our political institution of government, right? And so as the population increases and population density increases, it is decidedly more social and is decidedly more Democrat. But Democrat and Republican actually flipped in its ideology over the years. And here depending on where you are, and I did the research on this because I did the actual analysis. I predicted the last election. Within all of the states, I predicted the election based on one metric, and that's population density. And as we become more population dense, we become more democratic. Now you end up, it's been detected that this is how it happens. And so you end up getting districts. My brain just stopped thinking about what that's called. Gerrymandered. So it gets all twisted so that the certain representatives are covering certain areas, and it isn't about equality. It's about making sure that X person gets this block of people. Well, the House of Representatives has to deal with that. And as the population grows, regardless of where it is, the state grows in population, more representatives appear. So their authority and power gets diluted. Senators is not that way. The more the population there is, the more power they have over the outcome within the state. So depending on who it is that's in that state, it's easier to regulatory capture them than it is the House. So you only have to focus on 100 people. So all this wealth and power and influence can target one group. Senators. So why do the senators have so much power and authority? It's because it's instituted. And as is the growth of the House of Representatives, because they represent the people. So who do the senators represent? It's supposed to be the state. And the state is made up of citizens. So they're supposed to be representing the people as well. I have a struggle here. Let's move on. Unless you want to talk about it, Lunchbox, appreciate you being here. So this next article is in the Continuity Report, which is a show about movies. And it's one of the ones that I intend to bring here next year over to Twitch and do a regular show once a week and talk about movies, talk about TV shows, series. There's several that are coming later next quarter. And we'll end up, and we being me and maybe a couple of other people, will end up coming on and talking about it. At least, well, we'll see. One person might go up there and co-host. So Lunchbox says parties pick their voters. Also, if you look at the original apportionment, there should be thousands of reps, and senators used to be appointed. Yeah. There's some changes that have been made. So we're stuck at 100 for senators, and I think that is a power imbalance that just can't be Yeah. Yep. That's always weird. That parties used to pick their voters. Yeah, everybody that's in the government is supposed to be a representative of the people, but it would be very hard to get a meeting with thousands of people as a senator. So who are they following? Yeah, gerrymandering and parties picking their voters. Yep. Kind of interesting, right? But not many people really end up talking about this kind of stuff because it's just a given. Well, what do I have to do with it? How can I stop it or change it or whatever? Yeah, you got to become part of it. You got to discuss it. You have to go out and volunteer at a polling station and get engaged and find people that you trust to represent your interests, and try to avoid as many wingnut politicians as possible. I mean, the moment that somebody believes in uh, a party that started as a forum in uh, and a completely anonymous forum, it's a dangerous tack. So in the continuity report, this is the last article for today. Avatar was re-released and got a $30 million box office push. So despite 13 years passing since Avatar first hit theaters, moviegoers are apparently still dazzled by the striking world of Pandora in anticipation of the sequel, The Way of Water, which opens in December. Disney re-released James Cameron's original dazzling science fiction epic. To promising results, the film generated $10 million in North America and $20 million everywhere else. I think that's pretty fascinating. Rebecca Rubin is the author of this over at Variety.com, and 20 million in international. So that's the everywhere else that I mentioned. And it says, with this weekend's return, Avatar widens its lead as the biggest movie of all time with $2.85 billion worldwide. Not bad. Not bad. So the new one's going to come out, and it's supposed to be just as big as ever, as far as Pandora goes. I'm not sure if it'll have the same level of music that I like listening to, but I guess I'll watch it. The big draw is the IMAX presentation. Avatar is serving as a reminder of how cool the imagery of Pandora looks on the big screen. I love IMAX. If you've never gone to an IMAX theater to watch Pandora, you should go. It is amazing. And I don't know if I'll ever win the lotto, but if I win the lottery and I get, $1 billion or something like that, Ohio winners, 2 winners in Ohio won the Ohio lottery and I think they shared something like $1.3 billion. I'd probably put an IMAX theater in my house. Basically build the theater and then wrap my house around the IMAX theater. That would be just spectacular. Honestly, I would never do that. That's just such a gross expense. I would never do that. My desire would be to help out people. So that would be the least of my purchases. In a bucket list, in a gamut range of what I would do with that money and what I wouldn't do with that money. It's probably way over in the I wouldn't do that with my money. At any rate. So they go into great detail about the profits and the locations of Pandora making their money and when it debuted and all of that kind of stuff. So if you're really interested in the minutia of Avatar, either stick around when we end up watching it again and we talk about it live here on Twitch, or follow the link. Check it all out. The link is still in the chat. Eventually, I'm going to try and do it tomorrow. Unfortunately, I can't do it tonight, but I'll do the show notes, and it'll get pushed over to YouTube. It'll get pushed over into the podcast. You can pick it up and listen to the beginning of this stream if you came in late. But at either way, hopefully you get something out of this and want to come back tomorrow and chat with me about news and whatnot, because ohmTown is always aggregating. Really, it's nonstop. So every time you go over to ohmTown.com, it'll pull up some more links. This particular interface at the front of ohmTown starts a process. And so if it's your first time going to it, it might be a little slow, but it's grabbing content and displaying it for you. And it's not different for other people. It's always the same initial content, but you can subscribe and unsubscribe from various groups. And there is actually another stream other than this that is more focused to what you want, but the front page is always this constant stream of news coming in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never takes a break. It never sleeps. That's the benefit of programming. But that's what ohmTown is. It's all about news, but not just regular news, it's not like political news. That just happens to be a side effect of society, but we have all kinds of news in here. So go and check it out. I hope you dig it. Let me know if there's anything that you like, don't like. I'm here on Twitch. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. You can contact me via the website. All kinds of places, really. So there's a Discord. Patreon even exists, but I don't have it linked anymore. I might put it back at a later date. At any rate, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for coming. I'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, for another ohmTown Daily News Show. Thanks. Bye-bye.